Welcome back to the Affirmation Addict podcast. Today, I am going to be talking about manifestation mastery through discipline, consistency, and action. I feel like in the manifestation world, these words can feel a little bit triggering, a little bit too kind of masculine, a little bit too action oriented, where manifestation is really a beautiful place of allowing. And so I want to talk about the role that these three different things play. So discipline, consistency, and action. I want to talk about the differences in what they mean and how you can apply them to enhance your manifestation practice and just your time and your experience with manifestation. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around taking action, being disciplined, being consistent. I think there's a ton of opinions, and I want to share very honestly what's worked for me and also how you can apply it in your own life and different tips. Like if you struggle with being consistent or if you struggle with which action to take, I want to dive into a lot of that today. So we're going to go into each one by starting with defining what it is, the role it plays, and how you can tap into it and the benefits you might see. So in general, manifestation, just as a little bit of a recap, manifestation is a naturally occurring process. It is always happening, and you don't turn it on or off. Manifestation is, in a way, a natural law. It is something that all humans naturally do, whether or not we're doing it on purpose. So why do discipline, consistency, and action play a role? Because I really believe that manifestation is a very, very subconscious process. It happens on a subconscious level. Discipline, consistency, and action are actually more of our conscious mind actions. So I really feel like when you marry the two, when you marry manifestation with discipline, consistency, and action, you're actually tapping into both parts of your brain. And this is actually something I didn't really put together until very, very recently. And I actually give full credit to this to Tom because he comes from a military background. He is all about taking action. He's all about being consistent. He is so self-disciplined. Like, he is the kind of guy who will wake up at 5 a.m. for no reason every single day, go to the gym and do all these things. I, on the other hand, am so opposite. I am really, really easy to just push off my workout or push off eating a nourishing meal in the morning and just having a cup of coffee instead or a cup of tea and calling that breakfast. So we very much so differ in that sense. And I didn't really understand the power of marrying the kind of principles of manifestation, which is very much so trust, surrender, allow, kind of that feminine energy and almost that subconscious mind, with the more masculine energy of being disciplined, being consistent, taking action, and really activating and using your conscious mind to your own benefit. So I'm really excited because this is a very brand new perspective for me that I've had on my manifestation journey that I think has actually helped me a lot. So let's start with consistency. So I think you'll hear this all the time in every phase of life, including manifestation, but people talk about this with working out, eating healthy, skincare, hair care, to do anything almost. I think consistency is a pretty well-known term, very widely accepted that you got to be consistent. And if there is something that I have struggled with the most in my life, it is consistency. Because I think consistency, we like to make like a giant list of what we need to be consistent on. We need to drink 8 glasses of water. We need to wash our face at night. We need to brush our teeth. We have to do all of these things. And then ultimately we're living on life on autopilot when we don't have space to be inconsistent and just do things as we feel, because our life becomes a consistent routine and it can feel very distracting. It can feel very uninspiring. So I've always struggled with being consistent. And probably the one thing in my life that I've actually been consistent on is this business. You guys even know with the podcast, I go in waves. I will go like 6 months strong and then I'll take a 2-month break, or I'll go a year and then take a month break. So consistency personally up until recently has always been something I've struggled with. And I think the reason consistency specific to manifestation is so paramount and so important is because consistency acts as that repetition piece. Consistency acts as that repetitiveness. That is the thing that is helping you change your belief systems. That's helping you shift, hey, this is my mind's construct right now. In order to shift it, you have to consistently feed it different beliefs. You have to consistently break your patterns. So for me, consistency is so important in manifestation, but I think I talked about this recently on an episode where it's not necessarily consistency in what it looks like, which I think is our traditional definition of consistency, where it's like, okay, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. More so, I think it can be consistency in how you show up and in the fact that you show up. So specific to manifestation, a lot of the manifestation tools like affirmations, visualization, breath work, journaling, EFT tapping, and shaking your body out, somatic movement, all of these are tools. So in terms of being consistent in your manifestation practice, it does not mean you have to manifest or apply these tools at the same time every morning. It does not mean you have to apply the same tools every day. For that matter, it doesn't even mean you have to say the same affirmations every day. What I think is more important in your manifestation journey is being consistent in the fact that you are putting conscious, intentional effort towards it on a daily basis. So some days that might look like you are spending an hour in deep meditation. Other days it might just be like as you're sleeping, you're listening to guided affirmations because you haven't had time all day. And I think both are completely okay. It's more so the fact that you are putting in a conscious effort every single day. And to be totally transparent with you, the biggest thing I have been able to be consistent in is writing down affirmations, because I don't have to say it out loud. I don't have to get anything. And I love writing. Like, that is my personal favorite way of communicating with myself. So I love writing down 3 to 4 affirmations and calling it a day. Like, that ultimately is something that if I do nothing else, that counts to me. Even if it's on a napkin at a restaurant, writing down a single affirmation, that feels so good for me. And so my advice to you in terms of consistency, and if you're working on being more consistent, is take away the pressure of how you show up, what you're being consistent in, and pick one intention. So for your manifestation, pick an intention where it's to feel better, to raise your vibration, something more broad. It does not have to be towards a specific manifestation, and try and consistently show up for yourself every single day for a week. And give yourself a list, give yourself options of different time commitments, different kind of material commitments. You can do some with no materials, and make it easier on yourself. Set alarms for yourself or incorporate it into something that you do every day anyways. So that's all I want to share on consistency, because as I'm talking, I definitely know I talked about this kind of recently on an episode. I don't fully remember which one, but I think a few episodes back, I did talk about consistency. I think it was a morning rituals versus evening rituals podcast. So if you need more on that, please go listen to that. But that's my take on consistency. Is the reason we struggle on it is because we're putting way too much pressure. So release some of that pressure and make it easier on yourself. Okay, talking about discipline. So I think what I personally have learned about discipline, and I don't even know if this is the correct definition, but I kind of consider discipline as showing up even when you don't want to. And I think on the manifestation journey, in spirituality, in the kind of positive thinking space, we border and we kind of get a little risky with toxic positivity a lot, where we feel, or it seems like, practicing your affirmations or going into meditation is something that says something that feels like you should always want to do it. And it can come off as like the people who practice or the people who you're looking up to do it all the time, show up all the time with zero issues, and because they really, really want to. And I will be the first one to tell you, there are absolutely days where I don't want to do some of my manifestation work. There are days I don't want to affirm. There are days I don't affirm. There are days I am inconsistent. However, there are also days where I am disciplined, and I will go through that discomfort and allow myself to feel the resistance and be like, you know what? I know most of the time I feel better after I do this, so let me try. I really don't want to. I don't want to feel better. I don't want to do anything, but let me at least try. And that, I think, is my definition of discipline. Personally, this might be a totally butchered one, but I really think discipline for me is doing something that I know will serve me even when I really don't want to. And in terms of how do we get disciplined, how do you actually overcome that resistance? How do you actually overcome that discomfort? One thing that's really helped me is reminding myself of the end result, reminding myself and kind of gathering that evidence of, hey, the last time I practiced my affirmations, I actually did feel good. So acknowledging the benefit you got out of it will help you and help your brain feel less resistant and help your brain be like, actually, that is a good thing. Because, for example, I think a lot of us are consistent in our skincare, and a lot of us are consistent in certain things like that are hygienic. And why are we able to be consistent in that? Why are we able to be disciplined enough to do that every day? I think it's because we've seen a longer term benefit. We've seen the consistency and the showing up pay off. So we know even when you're coming home late from a party and you don't want to take off your eye makeup, you know the consequences. You know the consequences might result in a breakout or having a pimple pop up, and you don't want to deal with that. So you're like, let me just embrace the suck. Let me embrace, oh my gosh, that is such a Tom thing to say. Oh God, we've been married for a long time. Let me just embrace like that discomfort because I know it's gonna make me feel better tomorrow, and I'm avoiding something. So it's almost like you're preemptively taking care of yourself to make something easier on yourself the next day. And that's kind of how I feel about being disciplined in my spiritual practice. There are for sure days where I don't want to do anything spiritual. I just want to complain. I just want to mope. I want to wallow. And then there are days where I'm like, honestly, I'm tired of feeling this way, and I know I have the tools to feel better. So let me stop creating a negative spiral and let me get out of it, even though it feels dreadful, even though it feels like such a waste of time and such a piece of work right now. My biggest tip for you to be more disciplined is to, as you're practicing the things that you want to be disciplined in, take time to appreciate and notice the energy shifts, because oftentimes we'll just say 30 affirmations and move forward. We're kind of trying to get it done, but do those affirmations and notice how you feel. Kind of notice how your energy feels before and after, and take note of the difference, because once you can start to see and document that difference, you'll be like, oh wow, it actually did make me feel better. It actually did improve my mood. It actually did equip me for a better day ahead. Because sometimes we're moving in such autopilot that we don't know what's contributing to us feeling good or feeling bad. So for me, noticing the benefits and being like, wow, I actually did feel really good that day. When I did that, it helps me be more disciplined because I'm more motivated and I'm more like looking forward to the positive result. And that really helps create consistency as well. So one very clear thing I want to share with you is there are going to be days where you don't want to manifest, you don't want to put effort towards your spiritual practice, where you don't want to send love to someone who really pissed you off, and that's okay. And if you want to not, I'm not going to force you, but I will invite you to try it, go through the discomfort, and see how you feel afterwards. See if it did make a difference. Because when you can push through the discomfort, you are evolving. When you can allow yourself to be comfortable being uncomfortable, do the things that you don't want to do, you're honestly unstoppable. Because I also feel the reason we experience discomfort, especially in this area where we know these things are good for us, it's because our ego, the ego part of our mind, likes familiarity. It likes kind of staying the same, and it knows if you're about to go practice a bunch of affirmations and raise your vibration, that might not be the most familiar thing. So it knows a shift is coming, it knows a change is coming, and that's uncomfortable. That is scary. So your ego is actually kind of playing mind games with you. That is why we struggle sometimes with going to the gym, because although theoretically we know it's a dopamine hit, it will feel better. Moving our body always is helpful, but we avoid it. It's sometimes because our ego likes staying comfortable, and we're so comfortable sitting, scrolling on our phones, watching TikToks or watching TV that we like to stay in that state of mind, and we don't really like to do the things that we know consciously are good for us. So don't feel bad if you struggle with being disciplined. It is so normal. I like to kind of play a game and talk to my ego with it because I'm aware now why discipline occurs and where it comes from. So I hope that really helps. And the third thing I want to talk about is action. So once again, a huge misconception with manifestation is that you manifest and it magically falls into your lap. I have 100% experienced things falling into my lap out of literal thin air, but I also firmly believe that we live in a 3D world. Our manifestations are 99% 3D, so we need to take 3D actions. It kind of just makes sense where if you are trying to manifest your soulmate or your dream job, that is a very 3D world thing. You need to take 3D action to get that. That is, I think, fundamentally my take on why action is important. I also think there's two different types of actions. I think there's forced action where it's like, oh, I know I'm supposed to say thank you and be grateful, so let me just force it so my manifestation comes faster. And then there's inspired action where you get a nudge, you get an inspiration, and it honestly probably makes no sense, has nothing to do with your manifestation, and it shows up. So prime example for me is when I was manifesting my soulmate, when I was manifesting Tom, I essentially booked a bunch of trips and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go on all these trips for myself. So I was fed up and I did that for me, but I did set an intention that I did want to manifest a different relationship where I was not mothering. I was not in the mother role. And I wanted to manifest like a mutual friendship and a mutual partnership. And I had this insane idea. I went to Seattle with my friend, and my other friends were going to Seattle the following weekend. And I was already set on not going. I was like, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to be there the week before. And the night before they left, I got a hit of inspiration like, you know what? Why don't I go? It's senior year. It's the last time I'm probably going to go on a trip with all of my college friends. Let's go. Had nothing to do with my soulmate. It was a random nudge. I took action, I booked the flight, and on that trip I met Tom. So that is an example of how unrelated inspired action can actually lead you to your manifestation. So I think the biggest misconception with action and kind of like the goal setting version of taking action and the manifestation version of taking action is goal setting, taking action is like we are planning our actions in a logical way that have correlation to what we're manifesting. So if you're manifesting your soulmate, you take action, you get on dating apps, right? That's very logical. The more inspired action, for me at least, has been much less logical, where it's like, oh, I was on a trip in Thailand and I got a hit of inspiration of, wow, I wish there was an app where all of my affirmations were in the same spot. I looked, I didn't find any, and immediately I got a hit of inspiration. I can make one. And that's how this entire business started. And so it had nothing to do with, I set the intention that I wanted to start my own business, but I thought I was going to be in the fashion industry. I had no idea I was going to be in the spiritual mentorship manifestation industry. And so it's allowing yourself to be comfortable with the fact that your actions might not make logical sense. This is where you have to get out of your own way. You have to allow yourself to be okay with not knowing how it's going to unfold, because it's like, you know what? I'm going to be okay. I understand it is so scary when you don't know the plan, when you don't know how it's going to unfold, but when you can trust yourself that no matter what comes your way, you will be okay, then you have nothing to fear. I think that is the number one fear, and why we don't like trusting the process is because we're not sure we're going to be okay. If you are trying to manifest like your dream job and you're applying for all these interviews and you have no idea, set the intention that inspired action comes my way. Maybe you'll take a different route home. Maybe you'll run into an Uber driver who has a job offer for you and it is literally your dream job. And I didn't make that story up. I've had clients who that has happened to multiple times. And so giving yourself space to not define action as I'm going to take a logical action that makes sense towards my manifestation, and I'm not going to force it. You can set the intention as I want to take inspired action and I'm ready to receive inspiration to take action, but don't force it. Don't feel like you have to plan it all out. So I know that's a little bit confusing, but I hope this kind of clears it up where your action doesn't have to have anything to do with your manifestation, and giving yourself the space and the inspiration to say, I'm comfortable with taking unclear, messy, inspired action. I'm okay to take action even if it makes absolutely no sense. I trust that it'll lead to something good. And that's what really helped me take action, because I do think that action, the more action you can take, the more things that you can do physically, tangibly in the 3D world, the less we're out of our heads, the less we are just cerebrally thinking about manifesting, and we're actually going out and like making ripple effects in our energy, in the entire world's energy, to create space for your desires to actually show up. So that is my 2 cents on discipline, consistency, and action. I hope this episode was helpful. And if you take one thing away from this episode, I really hope you can take away the fact that merging those kind of very masculine topics of discipline, consistency, action with the feminine side of manifestation, of allowing, trusting, and being in flow, I really think you're going to have a power-packed combo. So I hope this helps, and happy manifesting.